like to welcome today my first interview for my new series in the global protective coatings industry. The professional interview that I'll be conducting today is with Guillermo Loayza, who is the president and owner of Setmix in Ecuador, which is a company that manufactures admixtures and concrete coatings in the Latin America market. In addition to that, he is the current president of the Latin America Advisor. He's also a protective coating specialist and a very fun guy to talk with and to work with. Guillermo, welcome. I appreciate this opportunity to talk with you today.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate this opportunity to be in this interview with you and by you. I already know you for a long time by now. It doesn't show, but I'm trying to wear my pin that says that I am a member of SSPC for 10 years now. So there it is.
Oh, there it is.
And it has been an honor of being part of this. It has also been a great pleasure to know you for this long and working together in a way that SSPC could reach more people, more places, and to get more people involved on what we need to do.
Exactly. And as we talk today, today is the 4th of January 2020, and we've come out of a decade, we're going into a new decade. So one of the questions I will have for you, I hear this interview focused on, what, but before we do that, let's talk about the Latin America Advisor to the leadership position of chairperson for the advisory council to SSPC for Latin America, and in that role you'll be doing that for the next 2 years, so 2020 and 2021. What are some of the initiatives you as the new chairperson are looking to do over the next 2 years with the advisory council working with SSPC?
Well, as you know, the council has already been active for 2 years. I am taking charge of the leadership of the council for the next 2 years, and the first goal is to reach all the objectives that the previous 2 years we have been trying to work on, achieving some common ground, because there's the need, especially in Latin America, especially to set some common ground, some common rules, some kind of like procedure manual for every chapter here in Latin America, because our experience in the last 2 years has been very clear on how the focus on how to achieve things should be more goal-oriented. I hope that I said it correctly. Sorry. There are too many perspectives in Latin America on how to achieve what SSPC needs to be done here in Latin America. So our first goal, I should say, is to get all of us here in Latin America to work very closely, to work knowing that all the chapters are here among us to help us each other.
That's very good. In addition to obviously looking at the advisory council, you have a leadership position with SSPC Ecuador chapter. What are some of the accomplishments that the chapter had last year, and what are some of the things that you're looking at doing going into 2020?
Well, thanks for that question, because it is very interesting in our case here in Ecuador that 2 years ago there were practically no knowledge of what SSPC could do for the industry here. Everybody knew the standards, the guides that SSPC have, but because of NACE presence, and it was very important for us to make people understand and learn that SSPC not only is working on the guidelines and on the standards, but it's also an institution that wants to have professionals involved, that to be educated and to be certificated and to be in their respective roles with the knowledge on how to do things right. There was a perception that only NACE was this kind of organization, and in the last 2 years, I could say for granted that we have achieved that. Now there are more and more, and even more professionals that knows the importance and the role that SSPC has as an institution.
And related to the next generation, the chapter has some initiatives with the local technical universities. What are the things, some of the things that you're doing with the universities? And
well, taking some advantage of the already established relationships and contacts that I have built in the past decade with some universities and some educational institutions, we are beginning to achieve and to gain more interest from the universities to have participation and to be more involved with SSPC. It is now more obvious for some universities of the importance of having knowledge of how to protect structures, concrete structures, steel structures that not only need to be built correctly, but they also need to be protected in such a way that their durability is really achieved in the time of the design that it is expected from the beginning. In that way, every university is from the point of view of a civil engineer or a mechanical engineer, architecture, industrial engineering too. It is becoming more of a multidisciplinary kind of point of view that is being achieved now with SSPC and the universities.
Oh, very good, very good. And in addition to being a member of SSPC and NACE International, you also are a member of the American Concrete Institute, the ACI, correct?
That's right. That's correct. I have been chosen as the president of the local chapter of the ACI Ecuador chapter since last year, and it's also a big responsibility. But I am very happy and honored that that happened that way, because it's kind of easier for me to get things connected. For example, ACI, as you know, have the 515 committee that works on surface preparation, and the idea is to make both institutions involved in these kinds of topics, because that's what's needed to be done. We are not working separately. We need to work together. And being president of ACI this year and also SSPC, and now that I am the president of the Latin American Council, I am really hoping to connect all these and really achieve this goal.
Well, what I think is unique about that is you being in leadership positions in at least 3 different organizations, is that in Latin America, especially Ecuador and Peru and some of the other countries that you sell products into, you're now going to be able to help educate and drive the industry related to concrete preservation through use of admixtures and also concrete coatings. Could you talk a little bit about some of the things that you see upcoming related to training and or certification? It can be related to the concrete industry.
Yes, sure, of course. Thanks. Since I've been in this industry, I can remember how every time that concrete needs to be protected, to be coated, that decision is not considered nor taken since the beginning. Not even since the beginning, when you are designing how long you want the structure to last in time. So when the time comes to consider coating the structure, being concrete especially, it usually is too late to have a proactive way of doing it. If that should have been considered from the beginning, you should have been only needed to coat and protect that structure. But when you wait 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, it's just too late. Now you have to also consider repairing it. Sometimes you have to verify that the integral structure is not affected, and you just can't only coat that concrete. And the cost of it, they usually goes around 2, 3, or even 5 times over what should have been considered from the beginning. And if the professionals involved, I think, should have had the correct education and certifications, inspectors, specifiers, that have the knowledge and that have consideration for the real importance of having how to decide when to do things. So it's very important. That's one of our goals, actually, to have in concrete, especially, to have more professionals really more involved in this kind of things, of being educated and being certified on how to do things and how to decide things.
Very good. As a a member and a leader within the Society for Protective Coatings, you've been very instrumental in providing. Here, just in December of 2019, the Society for Protective Coatings released 3 new concrete abrasive blast standards, and in the late summer launched a contractor, it would be more of a craft worker training and certification program called Concrete Coating Applicator Certification. You're going to be attending the World of Concrete and also participating with the Concrete Coatings Inspector certification program at the World of Concrete. With your background and your training and experience in the industry, where do you see additional training or educational needs to help promote topics related to concrete preservation with the use of, coatings and things like that?
Well, if we start thinking on you mentioned the concrete coatings application specialist. If you have the applicator, the person that is installing the coating, educated well enough and certified on how he's doing things, I could tell for granted that the problems that we have with concrete, structural problems that we have with concrete could be reduced to less than half that we have right now. I can't tell the statistics about that, because honestly, right now we have not really trained applicators in that area. Mm-hmm. The fact that now SSPC is offering a program that is going to certify the applicators is going to make the difference on how to know and how to select the best applicator in the area, in which you know that he's going to do things right. He's going to connect well on how to read the standards, how to follow procedures, how to achieve what the inspector is going to check in every project. Right now we don't have that. Right now it's kind of only based on experience based, on what previous contractors have been doing on the field. And of course that this experience have a lot of weight, but it just leave too much ground on how to design things. So if we have professionals certified with these kind of programs, we are going to shorten that ground.
So in Latin America, would you say educating the facility owners and the engineering professionals is critical to get these changes to happen in the industry?
No doubt about it. That's what I see here in Ecuador. That's what I have been seeing in Peru. That now I had the opportunity to be doing some contracts and projects over there, and that's what I know that also happens in Panama, for example, and in some parts of Mexico. It's somehow it's very common here in Latin America that happens, especially with concrete, because there's a term that a lot of professionals use here in Latin America about concrete. They used to call it like it's a noble material. You know, it's like a you could put it in a perspective that it is like a shining knight. Is a knight in a shining armor. That is just for being concrete is already so knighty that he's prepared to resist everything, and that's not true. And with that idea in mind, everybody tends to think that concrete is going to just resist about everything, and that's not true. We need professionals to keep that romanticism out of their heads right now.
Exactly. Your father focuses a lot of his discussions and presentations talking about the old Roman concrete, which we see still existing today. And you know better than anybody that concrete today is really not exactly the same as what the Romans made, thousands of years ago. And also, too, I think to the pointing both the facility owners and the engineering community as well is the outreach that the chapter in Ecuador has done with students, especially through ACI, the student chapter with ACI, but also I've seen the chapter do several half-day or 2-hour sessions with college students that are involved in material or engineering, and I think that I commend the chapter for doing that. Would you want to speak a little bit about some of the things that you're doing program-wise with students?
Well, yeah. As I said before, having the advantage of working with ACI, I have also been contacting all the student chapters from ACI and making direct connections to get students involved with SSPC. 1 year before, they have practically no knowledge or involvement or interest of knowing, because of all we have been talking right now, that they think that concrete doesn't need to be coated. So now these same students are thinking different. Their approach is different. They are wanting to get involved with SSPC. I already have 2 student chapters that are directing conferences locally in their universities, on which I have already gave 2 conferences on each of them to talk about SSPC, to talk about the programs with SSPC, to talk about the importance of coding and protecting concrete at the right time, making the right decisions. And the idea is to get the students this knowledge before they get to the field, at the time that they are still learning in the university. I am trying to share with them my own experiences, on which once you're in the project, on the site, you're just beginning to try to learn what you need to do to help to protect concrete. So now, yes, students are having that more clear, and they are getting more involved. One of the universities here in Ecuador is very enthusiastic on having their own SSPC student chapter. I'm still working on that. Unfortunately, there are some politics involved when these decisions comes in. They have to wait who is going to be the next dean in the university and things like that. But we are working on trying to keep the enthusiasm very, very active and very, very current. So once that said and done, everything is going to move to keep moving forward.
In a lot of the industry experts and their forecasting for Latin America continue to show the next 5 years to be strong growth of the industry in Latin America. What are some of your thoughts of going into this decade? What are some of the things that you see happening protective things in Latin America?
Sorry, Jim, could you repeat your last part of the question?
Oh, no problem. I wanted to get your feelings of, in the new decade, what are some of the changes you see coming in Latin America related to protective coatings?
Well, I tend to consider myself very optimistic, so I might say, because if you think how much have changed in the last 5 years, or in the last decade, and using that to think where we're going to be in the next 10 years, there are going to be more professionals related with SSPC in Latin America. There are going to be universities having become hosts of SSPC programs. I also might dare to see that in the next 10 years we are going to have, I hope, some universities having assimilated some of the programs that SSPC have to help the professionals have post-degree career selected in the coatings field, some things like that. I also see having the standards organizations more actively involved as organizations with SSPC. That's also an objective that we have here. Yeah.
No, very good, very good. In closing, do you have any professional advice for your fellow professionals in the protective coatings industry? Anything that they should focus on going into this new year?
My first advice might be to say, do things the right and precise moment they need to be done. Don't wait until the last moment. Yeah, that's my advice, because it's always easier to do things, making decisions in a proactive way, and not after you have to repair things and regret things.
That sounds good. Guillermo, I really appreciate the opportunity. Like I say, this is my initial interview, and you being the debut of my interview series. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today, and I look forward to working with you moving forward into 2020 and beyond. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate this opportunity to talk with you today.
Thank you, Jim. It's always a pleasure to be part of SSPC and its mission. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.